There's this big myth out there that we should always be looking for an edge. We need to be studying every single day, learning new things, trying to get better. And sure, if you want to do those things, that's great. But what happens when you start doing all of that stuff and you realize it's not making any difference? It doesn't make you faster or stronger or smarter. What do you do then? I was just talking with somebody about their training, and they were telling me how they recently went back and watched some of their old workouts from years ago. And they asked me, "Do you think I've gotten better?" And they sent me a few videos. It was hard for me to say, "Yeah, you've definitely gotten better," because they were so similar. They were doing the same exact lifts in the same exact order, with almost the same exact form. And they were even using the same programming structure. The only difference is that their times had gone up over the years. And that's kind of weird, because you would think that if you were making progress, your times would go down. But instead, they were going up. I told them, "Hey, you haven't gotten any better. You just got worse at getting worse." Here's what I mean by that. Years ago, I used to think that I needed to train hard all the time, push myself, lift really heavy weights. But I didn't have anybody coaching me. I didn't have any programs. I was basically just figuring it out on my own. And what I ended up doing was, I started training in a way that was very inefficient. I remember thinking that squats, bench press, and deadlifts were like the three main lifts, and that all you needed to do in your workout. And everything else was just extra, and you could kind of just throw it in if you wanted to. Now, I still feel that way about squats, bench press, and deadlifts. I still think they're really important. But I also know now that if I want to train those lifts effectively, I can't just throw them into every single workout. And I can't just throw random accessory exercises at the end and expect to make meaningful progress. I want to make progress on my squats. I have to structure my whole week around squatting effectively. And the same thing goes for the bench and the deadlift. So the problem is that I spent years training without actually putting in the work to get good at training. I was just trying to get stronger and bigger. But I wasn't actually focused on learning how to be efficient, focused on being smart with my training. I was just focused on lifting heavier weight. And so I would go into the gym, and I would do sets of 5, sets of 3, sets of 1. I was doing everything all over the place. I was doing super slow negatives. I was doing explosive reps. I was doing partials. I was doing everything under the sun to try to build muscle strength and size. And I thought that was what training was supposed to look like. And now I look back on that and I think, man, I was so stupid. I don't know why I thought I had to do all that stuff. But it was until I found people who knew more than me, and I listened to them, that I realized I didn't have to do all that stuff anymore. I didn't have to do super slow negatives. I didn't have to do partials. I didn't have to do explosive reps. All I had to do was focus on getting good at the basics, focus on getting really good at my form and technique. Because once I did that, once I learned how to perform these lifts properly, I was able to lift significantly more weight, and I stopped worrying about all these other little variables that were unactually making any difference anyway. So if you read somebody out there who's been stuck for a while, and you do want to know what to do, I would encourage you to take a step back and look at your training, look at what you're doing, and ask yourself, have I actually been getting better at training? Have I actually been getting better at performing these lifts? Or am I just getting worse at getting worse? Sometimes we spend so much time focusing on adding new exercises, new variations, new equipment, whatever, that we forget about the most important thing, which is getting good at training. If you can learn how to train smarter, it will make all the difference in the world, okay? Now, if you're somebody who's already pretty good at training, if you're already past that point where you're just getting worse at getting worse, and you're actually good at training, but you're just trying to get stronger, there's no question that you should be experimenting with different techniques, different training variables. But what I would encourage you to do before you ever mess with those things, before you ever mess with the training variables, is to go back to the basics. Go back to the basic lifts. Go back to the movements that got you to where you are today, and make sure you're still nailing those. Don't assume that just because you used to be good at something, you're still good at it today. There's a lot of lifters that I see in the gym who can do a really impressive bench press. But they walk up to the bar and unrack the bar with their legs wobbling underneath them. And I see these massive dudes walking up to the squat rack and squatting with a bar behind their back. And it makes me wonder, how are you even alive? How are your knees and your back and your hips holding up? Those people have lost sight of the basics. They've lost sight of what made them successful in the first place. And they're too worried about impressing people on social media. They're too worried about showing everybody that they're strong. And they've forgotten that the only person you actually need to impress is the person in the mirror. So what does that look like? That looks like walking up to the squat rack and being able to comfortably and confidently unrack the bar, knowing exactly what you're going to do before you even step up to the plate. It means going up to the bench press and laying down on the bench, opening your eyes, taking a deep breath, dropping your feet down, planting everything underneath your hips, rolling your thumbs to the outside, squeezing your shoulder blades together, flexing your upper back, flexing your neck, looking straight forward and crushing it. When you do this, you eliminate all the guesswork. You eliminate the wasted energy that you're spending worrying about whether you're doing things correctly. And you can actually focus on lifting the weight that's in front of you. If you're somebody who's feeling stuck, who's feeling frustrated, who's just not seeing the results that you want to see, chances are you're not training as well as you think you are. Chances are you're not as good at training as you think you are. And the best thing you can do is stop worrying about adding new exercises and stop worrying about all these other little variables and just focus on getting good at training. Ask yourself, am I actually getting better at training? Am I actually getting better at performing these lifts? Or am I just getting worse at getting worse? That about wraps it up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe. If you're looking for help with your training, you can head on over to our site. On our website, we have programs for strength, power, muscle building, and cutting. Our programs come with full video instructions, so you'll know exactly what you're redoing every single day. You'll know exactly what you're doing every single exercise. We have programs for all levels of lifters, from beginner all the way to advanced. We also have programs for all different experience levels. So whether you're a power lifter who's never competed before, or you've competed multiple times, we have a program for you. I'll see you guys soon.